We are back. Golenbock University. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Alan Blumkin, one of the three baseball Meshuggahs. I'm the second one is here. And actually, the first one is the professor himself, back from the Soviet Union.
No longer the Soviet Union. It's now called Russia.
That's like
Russia.
Ago, yeah.
Yes. Peter Golenbock, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
Did you travel well? Was it?
I traveled well, and it was the most interesting experience. It was an incredibly interesting experience. You find out in this world that people, the people of the land are basically people. That their worries are your worries. Everybody is trying to make a living as best they can. Everybody's, there's a lot of struggling going on everywhere, and that's what most people are trying to do. Feed their kids.
Okay.
Have a
is
good
there
job.
the extreme poverty there that there is here?
Well, yes. Yes, there is. The thing that's so very interesting is that they started with communism, of course, and by the time you got to Brezhnev, the people decided, well, the government's paying us, why should we go to work? Why bother going to work? So there was a period there where nothing was getting made. You go to a store for food, and there was very little food. Clothing, very little clothing. I mean, the whole thing finally fell apart. And the only thing, quite frankly, that sort of rescued that country is capitalism. And as you know now, capitalism has become, in Russia, sort of extreme capitalism. The one percenters, really control that country. And you might argue they do here in the United States as well. And that was one of the similarities. One of the differences, though, from what I've been told by Russians there, is that there's a tremendous amount of criminal activity that goes on, basically stealing. And Putin is one of the guys who steals. If you start becoming very, very successful, he wants a piece of it. So he has become one of the richest men in this whole wide world. He's got billions of dollars.
You think he has more money than Trump?
Oh, he's got far more money than Trump. Far more money than Trump. I mean, I think one of the things that attracts Trump to Putin is how much money Putin has. I think there's a feeling that Trump would like to be like Putin. The difference is that Putin came up through the KGB and is an extremely smart and extremely devious individual who doesn't lose. You talk about winners and losers. Putin doesn't lose, as opposed to our current president, who doesn't seem to really know anything. I mean, it's the strangest thing, for him to talk about Puerto Rico and say, "Did you know it's an island? It's surrounded by water and the ocean."
I never knew that before yesterday.
I never knew.
Yeah.
No.
We're all shocked as hell.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank God he was elected.
Like Court Lane in Casablanca.
And it's just, it's very, very interesting. There's a new television station called RT, which I had the displeasure of watching every night. It's not sort of like Fox. What it is, it's basically the propaganda arm of the Russian government. It's Putin's TV show. And it's interesting how they sort of champion Trump and really make sort of a example of Hillary Clinton. They really hate Hillary Clinton in the worst way, and they still talk about her, even though she's got really nothing to do with American politics right now. It's very, 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 very strange. But the people who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, the people who remember what it was like under communism and see the difference between then and what it's like now under Putin. These people, I would say 80% of them love Putin. And their answer is that Putin has gotten Russia off its knees. I mean, we don't like it that he's trying to get Ukraine back, and we don't like it that he's playing with Crimea and trying to get them back. But the people in Russia are perfectly happy that Putin is trying to do that.
There's somewhat of a balance of power between us and Russia. There is there's negotiation, and no one wants to blow each other up.
Right.
But with Iran and with North Korea, you're talking to leaders who are seem to be crazed. Now that can be said of Trump as well.
Yeah.
That's
Iran and North Korea are two different. I think they're two different animals. Iran seems to be, they have this treaty that they've agreed to, and they seem to be, doing what they're supposed to be doing. North Korea, on the other hand, is very scary. The whole thing is incredibly scary because their childish leader and our childish leader enjoy so much name calling.
Right.
Instead of crooked Hillary, it's Little Rocket Man. And the head of North Korea gives it back as good as he gets, and boy oh boy, and when people like Tillerson, whose job it is supposedly as Secretary of State is to sort of ease the tensions, he tries easing the tensions, and then Trump tweets and ratchets it back up again.
Well, how many personal attorneys have quit his camp?
Yeah.
George
Orwell's 1984, there were three areas. There was Oceania, which is the United States, basically, East Asia, which is China, and Eurasia, which is Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the three major powers right now.
Yeah.
Right.
No two ways about it. But the Kremlin, I went to the Kremlin, and it is gorgeous. Who knew? The place is absolutely stunningly beautiful. Moscow is very.
Were you invited over there by someone or a dignitary?
Yeah. Putin invited me. Yes, I got an invitation.
Oh
no. No. This is vacation. No.
Oh, okay. It wasn't anything you might be planning a book.
I'm not planning. No, not planning anything. I had the opportunity. Wendy and I had the opportunity to go.
Whoop. Are you here?
I'm here.
Alan, we seem to have lost Peter. Okay. Very nice. Let me do this. I'm going to push a button. We're going to take a pause, and we'll get Peter back on the line and won't miss a beat. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tyko. Alan Blumkin is here, and Peter just dropped off. Technical difficulties, I'll bet. Here we go. I'm going to push a button. We'll be back in a moment. Here's Peter.
I have a feeling Putin and the KGB must have cut me off.
Could be, but it's more likely Trump.
Oh, could be that too, yes.
Right. You're not bad-mouthing Putin every week or every day of your life, basically, to somebody. It's a horrible administration.
You know what's horrible about Putin is that he is so smart and successful. And very clearly, I don't care what anybody says, it was what he was doing which affected this last election to allow Trump to win. You know, between Comey and his commenting on emails and Putin and all of that information which he sent to WikiLeaks, between the two of those, I am certain that that's what did Hillary Clinton in.
She was allowed.
So, do you think that the whole thing with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Bernie had any effect on it?
I think Clinton was a lousy candidate.
Clinton may well have been a lousy candidate, but there are plenty of lousy candidates.
Yeah, what happened?
Plenty of lousy candidates.
She blames everybody but herself.
Well, why shouldn't she? Why shouldn't she do that? Why shouldn't she do that? I mean, if I was Al Gore, I would be blaming Mr. Unsafe at any speed. But
basically, Bill told her to go to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and she refused.
They thought they were going to win by millions of votes. They thought they had the whole thing in the bag, and so did you, so did I, so did everybody. So did everybody.
Yeah.
The whole thing was
they might have
shot.
misjudged that she did have some baggage. Let's put it that way. And that Billy did try to go talk to the Attorney General knocking on the window of the plane. There were, there was a whole bunch of stuff, and the previous.
Yeah, that's something knocking on the window of the plane, which should cause her to lose an election. What caused her to lose the election was all of that material that the Russians managed to get for Trump and spread, that the Republicans then were able to use against her. And there was a lot of stuff that you and I wouldn't necessarily think was terrible, but the Republicans are really fabulous at taking things, blowing them up, and make them look worse than they really are. And they did that. They did that a lot. And they did it with information that Trump and his boys made available to the Republicans. Plain and simple.
Okay.
Yes, Bernie had something to do with it, but no, I don't think nearly as much.
Yes, I think as a registered Democrat who voted in the primary and spent some time on the ballot and, filled it out and took 10 minutes out of my life and a whole bunch of philosophizing with myself, I felt ripped off when they predetermined the Democratic Party basically said that they were going to give it to Hillary, and
but this happens all the time.
Emails showed that.
Yeah, yes, they did.
Well,
and why did they show it? Because the Russians split the party by showing it. That's how. You never would have known had the Russians not thrown their stuff to WikiLeaks and made it public. And the Republicans, made plenty of Democrats unbelievably pissed off at Hillary because of that. But had the Russians not done that, you never would have known. You never would have been pissed off.
Good point.
Clearly.
Doesn't mean it was right, and it doesn't mean...
Right has nothing to do with it. This is American politics.
If Bernie got the nomination, would he kick Trump's ass? No question.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe the Republicans would have come up with Maybe the Russians would have come up with some dirt on Bernie. I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, it's really what they did. It's the tip of the iceberg where they just announced that the Russians, people in Russia, spent more than $100,000 on anti-Hillary ads just on Facebook. And that's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money and a lot of negativity thrown at her.
Okay. I will say that affected it quite a bit then.
Yes, it did.
No question.
Yes,
Was it the tip of the iceberg when it turned out that the owners of the voting machines that had the patents in Chicago when Bush was running the first time, all that stuff.
The Diebold machines where you voted Democrat and they ended up with Republican votes?
Right, just that little thing going on.
Yeah, just that little thing that went on.
And then back in the Kennedy-Nixon thing, isn't it always even joked about now that Kennedy's father said, well, I don't want to buy one more vote than it needs to be elected, that kind of thing. And the whole thing with the mafia. And so this isn't new. I think the system is broken.
What is new? what is new is you have a foreign government. What is new that you have a foreign government interfering greatly in an American election.
Well, they couldn't do it without Trump's
It goes without saying. It goes without saying. And clearly, there was a reason they wanted Trump to win. They wanted the sanctions to be lifted. And I think the deal was something like this. Trump would lift the sanctions, and in exchange, the Russians would allow ExxonMobil to drill in their millions of acres of oil fields. I think that those are the two of the things that had something to do with their alliance.
Okay. Now, how come then the Congress, they've got these committees out there, Mueller and those guys. What is taking so long with this stuff?
These things always take a long time.
Yeah.
Even Watergate took a long time. Watergate took about a year.
2 years.
From the break-in to when they finally... 2 years,
A little bit over 2 years.
These things take a lot of time.
By the time Nixon resigned, it took over 2 years.
Yeah, right. They just do. They take a lot of time, and it'll be very interesting to see, which heads roll. I mean, interestingly enough, with the Trump administration, we've already had 9 of his employees either quit or fired. 9 of them, including important people like this guy Price. I mean, the interesting thing about Trump is that whatever he says to you, he's going to do the opposite. I mean, he is a serial liar like we've never seen before in our entire lives. I mean, this is somebody they could be writing, 1984 books about, somebody like this, where he says to the people, we're going to drain the swamp. We're going to get rid of all the Goldman Sachs people and all the Wall Street people out of the administration. And they vote for this guy because of that. And so what do you end up with? Drain the swamp? Hardly. You end up with a bunch of Goldman Sachs guys, like Mnuchin, like this Gary Cohen. These are multi-millionaires from Goldman Sachs. Your boy Steve, the fellow who was just booted out.
Bannon?
He was
Bannon.
Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
Bannon's another Goldman Sachs, former Goldman Sachs zillionaire. So when he says he's going to drain the swamp, what are we talking about here? What swamp is he draining? He's got at least 5 of his cabinet members who have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars tax money on their private planes, flying them all over the world. I mean,
Peter, what was the thing that surprised you most, if anything, about life in Russia?
I think the thing that surprised me the most about life in Russia was that it was so normal. The other thing that surprised me, I went to St. Petersburg. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, so it was interesting to go to St. Petersburg, Russia. And it turns out there's 6 million people who live in St. Petersburg, Russia. I mean, this is a giant of a place. And it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. I went to, all of St. Peter's, his castles and his, these giant, gorgeous gold leaf buildings that the czars built for themselves. Catherine's, that's his wife, Catherine. She built this gigantic, beautiful palace of unimagined, just wealth that went into these things, while all the people in the land, I won't say they starved to death, but, they had nothing. It was no surprise. I guess the surprise of it was that it took so long. It took until 1917 when somebody finally woke up to the fact that the Romanovs, starting with Peter and ending with Nicholas and Alexandra, were taking all their money and they were ending up with nothing.
Horrible.
You ended up with the Russian Revolution.
And basically because they were getting their asses kicked in World War I.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's right.
Yeah, they were fighting tanks with horses.
I mean, one of the things it just sort of rips at your heart. Going to Catherine's palace and seeing pictures in 1941 when the Nazis came in and basically ripped it to shreds, burned it down, just reduced it. I won't say to rubble. You still could see the outside part of it, but just burned the whole thing up. You begin to understand that the Russians lost far more people during World War II than any other country, including us. They lost millions and millions of soldiers. It was unbelievable their losses in World War II.
So POWs were treated as Untermensch because the Slavs were just below the Jews on the Nazi purity scale.
Yeah, no, that's right. And then what did they do after the war is they spent all that money to rebuild it and put that fake gold leaf on there and make it look just as beautiful as it was before the Nazis bombed it. Because, among other things, it's an incredible tourist attraction. There were people from China, people from Japan, people from all over the world. They're from South America who came to St. Petersburg to see these magnificent palaces and cathedrals and museums. There's something there called the Pushkin Museum in St. Petersburg. Some of the most magnificent Van Gogh paintings that you've ever seen in your whole life. In the Hermitage, we must have seen 12 Michelangelo paintings.
Oh, wow.
Just unbelievable. Catherine was a collector of art. While she was, in power, she spent her years amassing about 2,000 works of the finest, from Europe. Just gorgeous stuff. And they're in the Hermitage. When the war broke out, they took all these paintings and they took them to Siberia to keep them out of the reach of the Nazis. In Europe, they weren't able to do that, so the Nazis went into all the houses of the Jews and stole all their paintings. But the Russians were able to get them out to Siberia where the Nazis, couldn't get them. But it's just, St. Petersburg is an unbelievably beautiful place. And we were fortunate because I think St. Petersburg is something like Seattle or London. I mean, usually it's overcast and raining and, the weather's pretty miserable from what I understand. But when we were there, it was beautiful. And I'll tell you what, it was just a sight to see. It was something.
You were impressed. Would you go back? Let me ask you that.
Would I go back? Yeah, sure. Sure.
Do you think
it's a long way?
It's
a long way,
right?
Yeah, it's a long way. We went on Aeroflot. We got on the plane in New York City, and 9 hours later we were in Moscow, which was quite something. On this magnificent 777 plane. I mean, it was you didn't even know you were in an airplane. The thing was so smooth and beautiful. It was something.
Good. And you don't have any fear of flying or any of that stuff?
No, I don't have any fear of flying, no. Okay. No, I love to fly, actually. I think it's wonderful.
Now, did you keep up with news when you were over there? I guess you did because it's the internet.
Yeah, there was a 4-page newspaper that came out every day that sort of, gave us the idea of what was going on. So we were able to follow it. And there's television. Got to see TV programs from China. You don't get to see much American news. That's the funny thing. So
okay.
What's going on in Africa, what's going on in China. I mean, when you're there, you get the notion that the world is much, wider and broader and more complicated than when you live in the United States. Most of our news is strictly about American politics and American problem.
Now, I know you're not a gadget guy and a computer guy. Did you have a laptop that you brought, or did Wendy have one?
No. There wasn't one. There was one available that I could use, so I was able to go into my email and basically, eliminate 200 emails every day, so that I wouldn't end up with 1,400 emails by the end of the trip. But
okay.
No.
And you're glad to be back. That's the main thing.
Oh, without a doubt. Went to see the Rays play in their final home game of the season today against the Baltimore Orioles. Our pitchers struck out 18 Orioles today.
Whoa.
It was
indeed.
Our lefty, 18. Our lefty kid, whose name escapes me. I don't know why he escapes me, but this kid, he throws like Sandy Koufax.
Snell.
I mean, he's 20. Yeah, Snell.
Yeah.
Snell. First time I saw Snell pitch, I saw he threw that curveball that went from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and I said, he throws like Sandy Koufax. And everybody went, come on. But when this kid finally gets his act together, I am telling you, this kid is going to be a star. And he struck out.
And he's a lefty. It takes lefties longer sometimes.
Yeah, he's a lefty. And today he threw a one-hitter for 7 innings and struck out 13.
Nice. Sad that the season is over for all of us.
Sad that
None of our teams went.
Well, for the Yankee fans and the Boston fans and the Cleveland fans and so forth, it's not over. For most of us, it's over.
Right. Yeah. But for the three of us in particular, we're pretty toast. I'm rooting for Dusty Baker. I hope Dusty Baker wins it. And I never thought I'd say this. I'm a Met fan and same division. But when's the last time Washington won? 1925?
24.
4? Yeah.
Well, this isn't even the same Washington.
I know, but they were in the World Series in 24 and 25.
I'm 33.
Right, but that Washington.
Oh, that's right. I'm 33. Yep.
Yeah, that Washington is in Minnesota right now.
I don't think.
But Washington. To me, Washington's still in Washington. It's okay.
Yeah, and I don't think the Washington that's now in Texas, the 11 years they were there, ever had a Hall of Fame player play one game for them.
Well, I'll tell you. You're talking about Lenny Randall, who I'm doing this book with. Lenny played 2 years for Ted Williams.
Yeah.
The first year, he was signed by Washington, and then he went over to Texas that second year, and he's got such marvelous stories about playing for Ted Williams.
I don't know if you know. Lenny started a show on this network. He and I talk in the mornings. And I get 2 or 3 shows. I put them together, and he's going around with his camps right now, and he goes from state to state.
I'll tell you what, he is a remarkable human being.
Everybody loves this man. Tally answers the phone, and in the time it took her to give me a message, take the return call, she says, I feel like I've known this guy all my life.
Yeah. He's remarkable. He goes around the globe helping kids. He called me the other day, and he put on the line one of 2 kids who he managed to get scholarships in college for, baseball scholarships.
Right.
And it's just, and he did it.
His whole thread is to become educated. He talks about that before becoming professional,
Without a doubt.
In other words, the carrot that he puts out there isn't a limo in playing with Kobe or whatever. The carrot he puts out there is becoming educated and passing it on to your kids to be educated. And he's just alive. The guy has more energy than any 3 human beings I've ever talked to. And he attracts interesting people. He brings interesting people on. And he's just a fun guy, I got to tell you. You must have had a great time.
Well, understand when I came to St. Petersburg in 1989, I was there to write my book on the Senior League, the St. Pete Pelicans, as you know.
Which basically brought us together, you and I.
Yeah. And Lenny was the second baseman for the St. Pete Pelicans. He was one of those people who really brought so much joy to that whole team. And it was was a remarkable experience for me because it's not every day that you get to spend with Major League ball players, watching them play together and party together and have fun together and ride the bus together and all of that stuff. It was just a wonderful,
at whatever level. I talked to some of his high school teammates the other day, and I asked what was he like back then in high school. He was the same then, with his music, with his charm, with trading tickets for baseballs and living life. The guy, he's a Renaissance man. I'll tell you. And plus, he's doing it. He's in Italy. He's got his finger on the pulse of international baseball. He's a pioneer when it comes to that. I just realized recently he was in the Arizona Sports Football Hall of Fame as well as baseball.
That's
he played
exactly right.
for Cush.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Played for Frank Cush. And he played for their fabulous baseball coach.
Bobby Winkles.
Yeah, Bobby Winkles, exactly.
Right.
Exactly right.
So, and he's so quick to think. I had him on the other day. He brought Duffy Dyer on. And he was so quick to talk about Duffy Dyer being his mentor. I think we might have been 2 or 3 years ahead of him at USC or at Arizona. He's so quick.
I think he was at Arizona State with him. Yeah.
Right. So you had this high school kid on who played high school kid. He's an accomplished musician and a producer and a millionaire in his own right. And I was talking to him about the high school days and how Lenny would just take charge and guide the kids to their scholarships. He guided his fellow teammates almost like an agent, as a go-between.
Wow.
And remember, he came out of Compton. We're talking about not the richest part of the world.
But did he tell you about some of the players who came out of Compton? Doc Ellis. I mean, there's a list of them.
Strawberry and Davis with Cincinnati and he's fascinating guy. When does the book come out, Peter?
Well, I mean, we've got to sell it. I mean, I sent the agent the proposal, I guess, last week. Now it's his job to get some publisher to buy it.
Okay.
I can't tell you when the book is going to come out until a publisher buys the thing. Once a publisher buys it, then I can tell you.
Okay. Well, Lenny was hoping for October. Actually, Lenny was hoping
October of what year was he hoping? October of what?
Well, you seem to be a little more grounded than he is. He does get excited. He gets excited about every kid is going to be the next Joe DiMaggio.
No, I know.
Is going to be Tony Lazzari.
Yeah, no, I know. True.
I gotta love him for that. If he weren't, he would be the music man. If he weren't selling education.
No, it's right.
I mean. Do you see a little bit of him in that?
Oh, yeah. But it's always, he's not trying to con anybody. It's always
right. That's what I mean. How could you con people when the bottom line is, I want you to go to school?
Right. That's right.
And
more than that, I want you to go to school and become a great baseball player. That's the other half.
Right. And if you don't become in the back of his mind is, if you don't become a great baseball player, and I may know that you're not going to become a great baseball player just by having a catch with you, he might be thinking to himself. But if I have to, quote, con this kid into anything, is to try to get to a place where he's achieved more than he would have achieved, and get educated at the same time. So he comes away from sports thinking, I gave it all. I never gave up. Everything he talks about is adversity, adjusting to life, and all. He's wonderful. Boy, I hope you said this. I hope this is your 10th bestseller because
Well, actually, my Dykstra book was my 10th. So hopefully.
Oh, I thought that was your 9th, but
that was my 10th. So hopefully this will be my 11th. I would hope.
And interesting that he wore number 11 with the New York Mets.
Yes, he did. He certainly did.
I don't know.
He did, but it's so interesting that the topic of mentoring should come up because wherever he went, he was with Frank Robinson in the Winter Leagues in I think Dominican or in Puerto Rico, one of those places, and he was one of those people who would sit by their knees and soak up anything they had to give him, which is the way you should.
Now, a couple of years ago, when I didn't really know him, and I think it was the first or second time I had him on, I almost felt like I have to broach the subject of Frank Lucchesi and what happened.
Sure.
I felt
that's no problem.
It was no problem for him. He answered it. He answered the question. Now that I get to know him, I can't imagine how Frank Lucchesi could have been such a bad guy to have he must have been a real jerk and a half to have driven Lenny, who really, all the times I talk to him, he's never down. I mean, what was, can you give me an idea?
I can give you an idea. It had a lot to do with his being a racist. Clearly.
Okay.
It had to do with being a racist. And he called Lenny racist names to his face. I don't know Lenny doesn't know either, exactly what set him off to say those things to him. But don't forget, Lenny heard those names growing up. Wherever he went, he heard those names growing up.
If somebody called you a kike, how would you react?
Well, you don't forget
either of you guys.
And when you get called the N-word over and over and over and over and over again, you finally get to the major leagues and you figure it's over with. But of course it's not, because racism in this country is a very deep-seated problem. And that was a day where, he called them, a racial slur once too often. And Lenny beat the shit out of him. And the funny thing about that is that he left the Rangers. He got a new job like that. Nobody held it against him. That's the funny thing. You'd think if you beat the crap out of your manager that you'd be gone forever. Didn't happen.
And Lucchesi never managed a major league team again.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
That's true. And from what I understand from Billy Martin Jr., I think he's not Billy Martin Jr., he's Billy Martin because Sr. was not Billy Martin.
Alfred
Billy
Martin. Yeah.
Right, he was Matt. Yeah. Right, and Billy Jr., Billy the son, was specifically Manuel was specifically not included in that nomenclature because Billy hated his dad. But my point is, Billy told me that when his dad was fired from Texas, Lou Casey, who was his bench coach, took the job, and that really pissed Billy Martin off.
Well, understand more than that, because you know that I did number one with Billy, so Billy and I spent a lot of time together and talked about his life a lot. It was clear to Billy that Lou Casey, he had taken Lou Casey on as a coach and sort of saved his ass because he needed time in the major leagues for his pension, something like that. And he took him on to be the coach, and it turned out that what the guy was doing was going in behind his back and trying to get Billy fired so he could get the job. Well, and that's what made Billy so angry, because he sort of knew about it.
And Billy's son said that it took Billy and Lou Casey a while, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm close, a while to recover from the rift. But they got to be friends again. Now, that says something about Billy Sr.'s heart, because I know Billy said that at first his dad was really angry. He kept saying, well, I would have taken him with me. I would have made sure I would have made some calls. I would have made sure that he got taken care of. You just don't go and take the job of, it's just, it's poor politics, poor gamesmanship, whatever it is. It wasn't right, and I tend to think that they never really got over it, Billy. I don't think.
No, I don't think they got over it.
Right. But
yeah, I've known Billy for a long time, little Billy, and Billy really got a raw deal. I'll tell you the rawest deal he got. Billy Martin married this woman, his last wife, and when Billy died in that car crash, Billy had been making something like $800,000 a year for several years, so he should have had tons of money in his estate. And the wife told little Billy and the sister that there was something like $8.96 left in Billy's estate. Apparently the wife had siphoned all that money somehow, some way, out of there, so there was no proof that there was money in there anymore. And young Billy ended up, the wife wouldn't even give, you asked Billy, the wife wouldn't even give little Billy's golf clubs. It was unbelievable what happened to little Billy, young Billy.
She shows up for Old-Timers Day every year.
Yeah, oh sure. I do believe on some level he loves his dad. I know that he does.
Little Billy.
Yeah. Young Billy.
Oh yeah, but Big Billy didn't love Manuel very much.
No, that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story. Billy's father was having an affair with a high school student during the time that he was married to Billy's mother, and the mother kicked him out. Yeah. Oh no, the mother
His mother was a character. She would show up.
I knew his mother. I knew his mother. She was a pistol. She was about 4'10", and she was tough as nails.
Right.
Tough as nails.
Right. Didn't you tell me a story about the frying pan?
Oh yeah.
She was take a frying pan to his head.
Oh, she hit him with it. Forget.
Actually hit him hard.
Oh yeah, she whacked him with it. Sure. Oh yeah.
All right.
Well,
hey, listen, we've delayed long enough. I got to quickly give me your take, because you're a man who wrote a book on a basketball scandal around shoes. Had a lot to do with it, and now here we are in a monumental scandal that has already cost Rick Pitino and the athletic director at Louisville their positions, and the FBI is in on this thing, and this could be the tip of the iceberg. just want to know your take from somebody who we're talking about a book you wrote on the Valvano years and what have you.
Personal
fouls, and it ended up in getting Valvano a great career as a sportscaster.
Yeah, well, he was slimy. I mean, but he wasn't nearly. It's hard for me to say he wasn't as slimy as the people today because he was. But in order to be successful in basketball, you've got to recruit star players. If you don't recruit star players, you're not going to be a successful basketball coach. And it's gotten so that the biggest stars are asking for the moon. And the coaches who are the most successful have figured out a way to give it to them. You know, It's interesting to me that the FBI calls this extortion and, criminal behavior and so forth and so on. I happen to think that the Louisville coach isn't doing anything different than 50 of them. So it'll be interesting to see how far this spreads. You know, obviously they're not going to have all 50 of these coaches fired, but I'm telling you that if one coach does it, the other coach has to do it, otherwise they can't compete.
And is it really any different than it used to be? When I can't remember the athlete who said his biggest adjustment to pro ball was the pay cut. And I don't remember who it was, but I do know that even back in the days of Kareem at UCLA, when he was still Lewis, they had alumni paying him to do jobs like turn on the automatic sprinkler system, and it came on automatically.
When I did the circuit for personal fouls, I was in Louisville, where I was on TV there, and some guy came up to me and said, "I just want you to know, we were going to get Kareem. He was, Lou Alcindor at the time. We were going to get Alcindor to come to Louisville, but we didn't offer nearly as much money as what UCLA paid him." That's what they said.
Oh.
And it didn't bother me. I mean, this is the way it works. I mean, if you want to get somebody to fill your stadiums and make you millions and millions of dollars, it only makes sense to me that he ought to get something in return.
So what are the differences today? Why is it so criminal? I
don't know. That's a very interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. It's been in a sense criminal for, since 1951.
LIU.
The only difference then in 1951 was that the players were taking, small amounts of money to throw games. But,
and
that
not
was
even
an era.
Throw games, really. I don't think
shave
anybody... Shave points.
Yeah.
Take care of shave points, take care of the point spread is different. And that's how it was presented to the players. So the players didn't feel it was so bad. I mean, Molina and all those guys, I think it was Columbia or whatever, they weren't feeling like they were throwing games. And that's where the con came in. That's what made it go.
Yeah.
Basically, one of them said the easiest way is to not try a defense, because then your offensive numbers look the way they're supposed to.
Right.
But
I tried to write a book with those guys. I spoke to 3 of them, and the fear of just them talking about it to me was palpable. It was very, very interesting. I mean, these people were afraid.
An excellent book by a man named Charles Fountain called The Betrayal on the Black Sox Scandal. And none of them would talk about it after everything, abandoned everything. And the honest ones also were pretty mum on the whole thing after it run its course.
There was a Sports Illustrated article in 1954 by Chick Gandil.
Yeah.
I read it to my kids in class when we talk about the Black Sox. He talked about it. He didn't tell much of the truth about it, but it was interesting that he did talk about it.
Yeah, but A. Schork and A. Collins and the other ones who were not part of the
Schork and Collins and the kid pitcher who won the two games.
Dickie Kerr.
Yeah, Dickie Kerr.
They wouldn't talk about it.
No.
It was basically became a total taboo subject for them.
Was Dickie Kerr in the Giants organization as a scouting guy later?
Later?
Pardon me?
Buddy Kerr.
Oh, that was Buddy Kerr. It wasn't the same.
Dickie Kerr was in the St. Louis Cardinal organization.
He was the one who was an outfielder.
That's right.
He hurt his arm pitching.
Exactly right. He hurt his arm pitching, and Dickie Kerr said to him, you've got some talent. You ought to be an everyday player.
You know that Landis banned him for a time because he went to coach college because he felt the White Sox, this was like 1921, 1922, weren't offering him a decent contract.
Right.
So he was suspended for about a year or so by Landis.
Yeah, well, Landis was a totally despicable human being. Totally.
Yeah, I think it's in the Hal Box book.
Okay. Dynamite. Well, folks.
Well, Peter, Hal Bach has a show on this here network, and it's called and Alan appears on it often. It's Vintage Sports from Nedick's at the Old Garden on 48th Street. Long title, but it. Wow. And we talk about one of our guests was Henry Bibby recently. I'm going to try to get him back again for Tuesday because. And another one who I'd like you to meet one of these days, Peter, is George Case III, who's dead.
I'm a Facebook friend of his. Yeah.
Good. Come on, if you would, and talk about those vintage days sometime. We do it Tuesday at 8:00 your time, same numbers. So any time, you are always welcome.
Well, that's very appreciative. Thanks. Thank you so much.
And
all right. Have a nice week.
I love doing this. You and Alan were just going back and forth about Kerr and what have you. I'm thinking to myself, these guys are geniuses. What the hell am I doing? All I do is push 5 star, and it goes recording starting. That's all I do. That's my purpose.
Yeah,
I love you guys.
That would make you a Golden Globe producer.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's all it takes. Actually, I'll tell you what producing is. Anybody listening, it's the people that you produce. It has nothing to do with the producer. It's the producees. You start with talent, and my God, I got some talent right here. Got some talent in the entire network. Peter, we have 14 offerings. 14. So
I'm overwhelmed with one. So
I'm overwhelmed too. But may I ask you really quickly? Hold on, I'm going to turn it off, and then I need your emails, both of you, if you would. But thank you, everybody, for listening. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, Golenbock University. I'm Ralph Tyko. Alan Blumkin is a maven. Peter Golenbock is a maven. I'm surrounded. Thank you, everybody. Keep on keeping on. It won't turn off. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody hang up if you would, and we'll talk during the week. Be well.
Bye-bye.